It's time for the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. Stay tuned as we discuss local and national sports from Southeast Missouri and beyond. The Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle is brought to you by Royal Retros. If you like cool throwback jerseys of defunct sports teams, Royal Retros is the place to buy. If you go to royalretros.com and you order with the code SPORTSDESK, all one word, you can get a little bit off your order. So check out Royal Retros. And now on with the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And this is Kyle Roberts.
And we have got a full show today. We are going to lead off talking a little bit of high school basketball. Then we are going to dive in a little bit and talk about the CFP semifinals that are coming up Thursday and Friday. And then we are going to do our deep dive into the National Football League on the backside, including talking about the Tennessee Titans search for a new head coach, which has gotten very interesting, but we will get to that in a little bit. We are going to lead off, first of all, with a little bit of high school basketball. A couple of things of note. It's been a little bit quiet, with the high school basketball tournaments ending, either on New Year's Eve or right before, and a lot of teams not really gearing back up until Monday and Tuesday nights. But there's been a few things going on. The Donovan Donettes have picked up a couple of nice wins this week. They went to Puxico and absolutely dominated the Lady Indians 75-21 on Monday night, and then earned a really nice win over Thayer on Tuesday night. And the Donovan Dons boys went to Puxico last night and played Puxico pretty solid in a 73-56 loss.
Yeah, that's really no surprise that Puxico won. I mean, Puxico's an exceptional team. It's encouraging for the Donovan fans to hear that the boys hung tough with them on there. I mean, Puxico's just in a different place. They're a different team. But the Donettes have the opportunity this weekend to go up to Columbia for the Sophie Cunningham Classic. Now, if that name sounds familiar, she is Caitlin Clark's enforcer with the Indiana Fever. She made a lot of news back during the WNBA season. But I read up about this, and Sophie is actually at this tournament, and she meets in the locker room with all the girls.
Nice.
Yeah, so it should be really fun. The Donettes' first matchup this weekend is against the Tipton Cardinals. They're a Class 2 team with a 7-5 record. Their points per game are about 6 points less on average than the Donettes, but the real stat is on defense. The Donettes are giving up a really astounding 27.8 points a game. I mean, think about that. Let's just round that up to 30. Okay, that's 15 points per half, or about 7 or 8 points a quarter. That's how many points their defense is giving up. So the Donettes' defense is just really scary, whereas Tipton's average points allowed is close to 55 points. So you're going to see a real difference in defense as far as that goes, and then we'll see if there are any more games lined up in that particular tournament. But the Donettes are going to return to Columbia and return to the scene of their state championship victory from back in March of last year.
It's going to be interesting. Looking at some more games that have been on the schedule this week and are coming up. The Poplar Bluff Mules boys basketball team, after taking fourth at the showdown last week, they are headed out to Joplin on Thursday, out to Kyle Country, to play in the Kaminsky Classic. They'll be playing a lot of Southwest Missouri teams. I believe Joplin's in that. I think Webb City may be in it. Carl Junction is in it. Like I said, Kyle, that's your neck of the woods.
Yeah, we don't like CJ out here too much. That's more of a football thing. But I'm glad to actually have some Boot Hill flavor out here in the Ozarks. That'll be exciting, and I may make my way out there.
You should, man. That'll be really fun. Also, looking at some games that have been happening recently, Bell City played Selma on Tuesday night, came away with a very convincing win. I believe it was something like 92-30. Bell City is looking really good, in the early going this year. They could be a contender to win that district in Class 1. I think they will get a challenge from the Delta Bobcats, who picked up another win on Tuesday night defeating Advance. I think that was about a 12-point game at Delta. And it's going to be interesting, in Class 2. Puxico obviously looks good. Puxico did get a little bit of bad news recently when big man Will Bogus, I think he's got a foot injury.
Oh, no. He's
supposed to miss a few weeks, but I think he is going to be back. Definitely for districts, he could be back before that. It's going to be interesting. Class 2 is looking pretty good this year. Puxico, Van Buren are both looking really good. Hayti is looking really good. That's a team in the lower Boot Heel that, is flying under the radar a little bit.
Before you get too far off of Van Buren, again, I saw Van Buren play at the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. They upset Dexter in the semifinals and then gave Puxico everything they wanted.
That's right.
In that tournament finals. And it's the perfect mascot name for the way that this team plays. Bulldogs. I mean, they play bulldog defense. They are fast. They are super aggressive in your face on the defensive end. They force turnovers, and if they can improve their scoring, especially from the perimeter, they are going to be a frightening team to play in the postseason this year.
Indeed, and one potential matchup that could happen in the postseason is you could have a Van Buren-Hayti matchup in the sectional round. I don't know that for sure, but it could happen, and if it does, that is going to be a legitly great game.
Right, absolutely. Another game to look at coming up this weekend on Friday. Dexter travels to Cape to take on the Central Tigers. The Tigers are down this season with a 4-7 record, while Dexter sits at 7-5. They're certainly looking to improve that record as they go along here. And you don't usually see Dexter go into Cape as the favorite, but just looking at the tail of the tape, I think that you would have to favor them in this matchup. So that's going to be a big game up in Cape Girardeau this Friday.
That's going to be interesting. One reason Cape has struggled is they had a player, I believe his name is Edwards, that went down early in the season with an injury. And I think he was hurt or may have gotten hurt when they played Dexter in the SEMO Conference tournament back last month. His status could determine a lot how that game ends up turning out. It's definitely going to be interesting. Mark, I think you were at some high school games earlier this week. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I got to see, it was Naylor. And who did Naylor play?
Campbell, I want to say. Maybe.
Yes, it was Campbell. It was Campbell and Naylor. It was a really entertaining game. Very, very close game. Campbell just they basically wore them down. Is what happened. They got off to an early lead in the first half. Naylor was able to hit a couple of key three-pointers as the second quarter expired, and they ended up trailing only by one at halftime by a score of 31-30. Campbell jumped back out again in the third quarter, but Naylor was able to take a lead at that point, and they actually led by 2 or 3 points at the end of the third quarter. You'll have to check my story on cmobile.com for the exact details because I am going based on my memory here. But Campbell managed to forge a lead that remained anywhere from 4 to 6 points over the latter half of the fourth quarter. And it got to the point, it's that thing that's so frustrating about high school basketball without a shot clock, where a team that has a lead just plays keep away in the offensive end, trying to run down the clock once you get under 4 minutes. And Naylor was left with no choice but to foul Campbell at that point. And, of course, you're going to have the ball in the hands of your best free throw shooters. And so the Camels players hit 5 of 6 free throws, and that was really the difference of the game. Their last free throw gave them enough of a lead that they couldn't be hurt by a three-pointer, which was good because that was the last shot that Naylor made. But I'll tell you what, these whether school's big or small, you get some really entertaining, hard-fought basketball games. So if you're a fan, it's like, I'm a fan of basketball. I want to see some live basketball. Go to your local high school. Chances are you're going to see, a really good game.
Indeed, another team that's really made some noise in the early going is Woodland. They are playing Kelly on Friday night, and Woodland's going to be a pretty good-sized favorite in that game. Woodland just suffered their first loss last week against Jackson in the finals of the Southeast Missouri Christmas tournament. But, that's a Class 3 school losing to a Class 6 school. So Woodland's looking really good. They're going to be a force in Class 3 this year.
Oh, I think for me, they're my favorites in Class 3. I mean, they have to be. I saw them play earlier this year. They're tall. They're fast. They are relentless on defense. Absolutely relentless. They went into and I can't remember who they were playing, but they went into the second half of their game with a 20-point lead, and they were playing full court press defense all the way through the third quarter. I mean, they were up.
Wow.
They were up by 20, and they were playing like they were down by 20, forcing turnovers. Not giving away anything in the paint, challenging. Basically, the other team couldn't even get shots off from the perimeter, and they used their defense to present turnovers and offensive opportunities. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson just had bigger players than Woodland did, just because the size of a Class 6 school versus the size of a Class 3 school. I would surmise that they probably just outsized them in that game. But now Woodland is going to be a force in Class 3. You can bet on that.
And that's going to be fun to watch. And on that note, we are going to break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the college football playoff semifinals here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers men's basketball coach Robert Kirby, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle, and we are going to talk some college football because we have got two very big college football games coming up. Tonight, the Miami Hurricanes are taking on the Ole Miss Rebels in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl in one CFP semifinal. And then tomorrow night.
Oh, I forget. We're recording on Wednesday,
but we're dropping on Thursday.
Dropping on Thursday. So you say tonight.
Yes.
Mike's living in the future. In case you're wondering why I'm babbling on about this now.
Well, anyway, tonight the Miami Hurricanes are taking on Ole Miss in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl in one semifinal, and then tomorrow night, Friday night, the Indiana Hoosiers are taking on Big Ten rival Oregon. What is with that? In the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, with the winners of each playing on Martin Luther King Day for the national championship in Miami, Florida, at what I believe, I don't care what they call it. They can call it Landshark Stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, whatever. To me, it's still Joe Robbie Stadium.
Well, that's because you're an old man continuously living in the 80s, as witnessed by your Iron Maiden T-shirt today.
That's right, dude. And I'm going to be 52 on Sunday, y'all. So, yeah, I'm an 80s kid.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mikey.
Here are my thoughts about this year's college football playoffs. It worked exactly the way it was supposed to. I mean, we've got a 10th seeded team, Miami, that upset, probably broke everybody's bracket. By beating Ohio State, demonstrating that Miami defense is absolutely for real. You have this incredible SEC contest between Ole Miss and Georgia, and I don't have a rooting interest with either one of those teams, but I just love seeing Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin on the sidelines going all the way to the semifinals. And then on the other side of the bracket, you've got Oregon. Oregon is not a Big Ten team. You can call them whatever you want. They're a Pac-10 team.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the Pac-10 conference. It's not even the Pac-12. It's the Pac-10. I don't know if we're gonna talk about conference realignment today or anything like that, but
that would be a good topic for a future show.
Yeah, when we're in the doldrums where there's no sports, and talk about that, because I definitely have ideas. The most impressive win of the weekend, of course, was Indiana embarrassing Alabama. That's all they could talk about was how Alabama was embarrassed. No, they were worse than embarrassed. It's what Kyle's grandma says. Belt to ass is what that game was, and it was glorious to watch.
Shout out to my mother for that one. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say that's the most impressive win. It's impressive when you look at name. But I've watched Alabama play this year, and I said they should have lost to Mizzou.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. The
The
committee still would have put him in even if they had. I mean, it's just it should be
I
Alabama plus 11 is what they should call this stupid tournament every year.
Absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, they've now finished with 4 losses, which is the most losses Alabama has had in a season since Nick Saban's inaugural season when they went 7-6 in 2007. Also, on an aside, they lost to a Sun Belt team at home that year. Just want to throw that out there. Shout out Sun Belt Conference. Oh. We have a 3 out of 4. You were absolutely right, Mark. We have a 3 out of 4 chance of a first-time claimed. I want to clarify, claimed national championship because Ole Miss has a claimed national title in 1962, but it is not recognized by the NCAA.
Yeah.
Oregon, I believe, is the winningest program to never win a national championship. Obviously, Indiana is the losingest. Well, as of right now, they are the second losingest program in the history of Division I college football. That has now been passed by Northwestern. And Oregon's had an abundance of resources, phenomenal teams, phenomenal players for so many years, and have just never been able to get the job done. I watched them play, and they lost at home to Indiana earlier this season, and I just don't think that. I think the X factor to this game is Indiana's offensive line. Did you see the way they just bullied Alabama in the Rose Bowl?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, their center was the game's MVP. When's the last time you saw a center win MVP of a football game ever?
Ever, yeah. It was phenomenal. That's an excellent 5-man unit, and Indiana is so balanced. They run the ball very well. They control tempo, and they control the line of scrimmage. And whenever they do decide to throw it, Fernando Mendoza is incredibly efficient. And not enough people talk about his receiving core. Guys like Elijah Surratt, Charlie Becker, Omar Cooper, E.J. Williams, this team, and Riley Nowakowski, their tight end. They are insanely stacked in the running game with Kalon Black. I said Lee Beebe Jr. He was with the team last year, and Roman Hemby. Indiana is incredibly balanced, and on defense, guys like Mikel Kamara, Aiden Fisher, their linebacker, and D'Angelo Ponzo, I believe, is going to be a late first-round pick at cornerback. There's no weaknesses here, and I'm not taking anything away from Dan Lanning, who's as big of a maniac as Kurt Cignetti is. That game's going to be a bloodbath. I truly believe, but I still take Indiana at the end of the day.
Yeah, now, I think Indiana is going to win because the game's in Atlanta. It's going to be a lot easier for fans to travel from Indiana to Georgia than all the way from Oregon. And I have a hard time taking Oregon seriously because their uniforms look like an anime-inspired video game.
And that's a bad thing? Oh my God! Oregon changed the game with uniforms. I love their uniforms.
Yeah,
whatever they're wearing every week is we don't know.
Some of it looks cool, and some of it is like, did you hire a colorblind psychopath to design these uniforms?
That's that Phil Knight money.
Yeah,
that's that Nike money.
That's definitely what that is. I think that's going to be a terrific matchup. Don't sleep on the Fiesta Bowl. You've got Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss leading that powerhouse offense against a Miami defense that has really ended all of the questions about, who deserved to be in the playoffs. Miami, Notre Dame, Virginia. Miami is proving it out on that field with that defense. And so, I mean, this is going to be, a great offense against a great defense. I don't know. I'm going to have to give the edge to Ole Miss, I think, just on the strength of their offense.
I am too. And also, the SEC second leading rusher, Keywan Lacey, a Mizzou transfer. Would you look at that?
Yeah.
But Trinidad Chambliss is one of the best stories in college football. And he is more proof that it's not about your star ranking, it's about performance. And even if he played at Division II powerhouse Ferris State and transferred up to Ole Miss, won the starting job. Look at what he's done with this team. And yes, it is refreshing. Ole Miss is no longer obnoxious because of the lane train. The lane train has left the building. Thank God.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see the next football. I can't wait to see how he ruins LSU. But when you look at, but on the flip side, the Miami Hurricanes defense, these boys they don't feel like Miami. They feel like the U. They feel like the old school U.
Yeah.
When you watch them play, the swagger, the intensity, the physicality, the way they finish plays, and but my concern is Carson Beck, their quarterback. He is as clutch as postseason Sam Darnold, and I like Carson Beck. I do, but if Miami's best chance to win is to run the ball, control the clock, and keep that Ole Miss offense off the field, because they play with a lot of tempo. And one way to kill tempo is control the line of scrimmage and run the football and let those edge rushers tee off on Trinidad Chambliss.
That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to pressure Chambliss, and they're going to have to hold that edge and keep him from scrambling out to the sideline, because when he moves with his legs, he's got a huge arm. He can throw across his body. He could be running out of bounds and just chunk the ball all the way downfield. So they're going to have to maintain their coverage in the secondary, and they're going to have to try to contain Chambliss from running and throwing.
It's got to be assignment defense for Miami, because Chambliss's ability to extend plays and run with the ball, and he's able to pull defenders in whenever they lock in on him, and receivers get open, and he can launch it downfield with the best of them. With that being said, I'm actually going to pick Ole Miss. As great as I know it would be to have a marquee brand like Miami in the national title game, I think they already got their revenge for the 2003 Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State. I got Ole Miss, and it's again at Ole Miss, Indiana. If you had that natty picked at the start of the year, I need to know all of your personal information, because there ain't no way anybody breathing had those two teams playing for the national title at the start of the year.
And that's
my natty.
Yeah, that's why I say that this tournament this year has worked, because we. Where are the blue bloods? That were always in the old 4-team tournament. Well, you've got Oregon. Oregon seems to make it to the Final Four, and just either they fall short in the semis, or they make it to the Natty, and then just don't show up. I mean, that's what we had last year. We had Penix against Knicks. Washington defeating Oregon in the semifinals, and then I'm thinking of 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago.
I'm still in the J.J. McCarthy draft. Yeah, but that's typically what you see from year to year, and you can't look at any of these 4 teams that are left and say, well, they didn't earn their spot. I mean, because we've seen what they've done on the field. Now all we have to do is figure out a way to open it up so that the initial field is. And I agree with you on this, Kyle. I think it does need to be more open. If you're going to have an open tournament, it needs to be more open than just to the 4 big power conferences. If those are the only teams that get in, then have a second tournament for the second tier. If we're going to open it up, then make it a different way. But we have to find some way, and you can wave a magic wand to make this happen, but we have to find some way to bring some type of sense again to the way that the conferences are arranged and aligned, and then how the postseason is put together. There are a few things that we could tweak just right off the bat, and then some other things that are deeper and more systemic that need to be addressed by people with a lot more money and influence than us. But as we said on the break, this is probably a topic for late spring, early summer, when we are in the doldrums of very few active sports. So we'll just have to leave it at that.
What you're talking about is already I feel myself getting wound up, because I'll get rolling about realignment and how illogical it is. Because obviously all the schools that have moved around, it all has to do with money and network deals as opposed to logistics. And all those moves are not made with other sports in mind but football. Even
Right.
for basketball schools like UConn or take a school that's proficient in other sports like Stanford. Now you have ACC games of Syracuse and Stanford.
Yeah, and Mizzou has a great wrestling team that competes in the Big Ten. I maintain that Mizzou should have been in the Big Ten all along when they left the Big 12. But for some reason, they just weren't good enough for Michigan and Wisconsin.
Oh, no, the SEC didn't want Mizzou. They just took them as collateral. They wanted they wanted the media market for St. Louis. Mizzou just came with it. So that's another reason why we're not respecting, even when we do good, and that's another tangent, but let me get this off my chest. Even when Mizzou do good, I call them the but school in the SEC. Yeah, because in 2013, when we made the SEC championship game, Florida was 4-8, Georgia was down, Tennessee was down, and South Carolina's underachievers. It was always but. That's what we are to them, is the but school.
Hey, since we're talking about SECs and colleges and things, we haven't talked a whole lot about college basketball, but I would like somebody please to explain to me how it is that Missouri is sitting record-wise on top of the SEC standings, that they have a winning record, and yet they can't crack the top 25. Can somebody please explain that to me?
No respect.
That will change next week because we just beat the defending national champions at home this week. That will change. New polls come out on Sundays, and Missouri will be in there. So I have faith because Missouri's had themselves a very fine start to the season. Very impressed. But again, we're the but school, and keep in mind you're talking about a program that is among the 10 winningest to never make the Final Four. I know, and we should also move up pretty well, considering that, like I said, Florida is only 500, and then you got teams that fell this week like Georgia. So Missouri's going to get they'll get their spots. Trust.
Yeah. By the way, Mizzou is currently sitting with an 11-3 record. They're 1-0 in the conference with that win over the Florida Gators. Let's see, Vanderbilt, Alabama, and Arkansas are all ranked in the top 20. Vanderbilt's 14-0. We'll give that to them. But Alabama and Arkansas have the same 11-3 record, as does Missouri. Georgia's ranked 18th. Tennessee 21st. Georgia, a bit of a better record at 13-2. Tennessee's half a game worse at 11-4. Now, Missouri can go a long way into making their case for better rankings. Wednesday night, they are taking on the Kentucky Wildcats on the road tonight at 6 o'clock.
That was last night, actually.
Was it last night?
No,
that's what I said. Wednesday night, last night.
Okay.
Mike's a day ahead. He's in New Zealand. We're in Missouri.
Yeah, it's like we're going to have to adjust the flux capacitor for recording on Wednesday, but broadcasting on Thursday.
Yeah, by the time this airs, they will have played Kentucky last night.
Okay, well, at the time that we are recording this game is still in the future, although if you're listening to it, the game has already happened in the past. So again, tune up your flux capacitor and get the DeLorean up to 88 so we can go back to the future.
It will be interesting. And on that note, we are going to break, and when we come back, we're diving into the National Football League here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers College women's basketball coach Alex Wiggs, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle, and we are going to do our weekly dive into the National Football League. And we are going to lead off with my team, the Tennessee Titans, because even though...
reasons.
Well, yes, because they're my team. But, in spite of the fact that they, for the second year in a row, finished tied for the worst record in football, the Titans are searching for a new coach, and that coach search has gotten interesting because there are some pretty legit candidates on the market. The Cleveland Browns, fired Kevin Stefanski on Monday. That's a good candidate. Mike McCarthy's another guy that may be out there, And then, in the big news, the Baltimore Ravens shocked everybody by firing John Harbaugh on Tuesday. And Harbaugh right now is probably the number one candidate for every NFL team looking for a coach besides his former team, the Ravens. A lot of people don't think, and Mark, I know, doesn't think the Titans have much of a chance of getting Harbaugh. They may not, but he would be an absolute coup for our guys if we could get him. We have a young quarterback. We have a ton of cap room. We've got some other young players that are pretty good that are starting to come along. We got a really good young linebacker in Cedric Gray. We've got Jeffrey Simmons, who is one of the best defenders in football. We've got some pieces to build around. We may not get Harbaugh, but the thing is, even if we don't, there are good candidates out there. The only way we don't get a good coach this time is if we screw it up.
Harbaugh is mainly known as a defensive coach, even though before he became a head coach, he was a special teams coordinator. But he's really thought of more as of a defensive guy than an offensive guy, which is why I think he's going to go to the Giants. I mean, number one, going to New Jersey. Let's call them the New Jersey Giants. That's where they play. But going to the Giants, he's moving up in terms of his media market. He's going from Baltimore to New York. Going from Baltimore to Nashville is a step down, both in terms of market and team. I mean, the Giants have a huge NFL legacy. They have a Super Bowl winning legacy. Jackson Dart, if they can keep him healthy, I think is going to be a fine sort of top 12, top 15 quarterback. Hopefully, you've got Cam Scadaboo coming back healthy. You already have the bones of a really effective defense. And the Giants have really high draft picks. I mean, it's like if I was sitting in Harbaugh's seat, the Giants would just be a natural fit. I'm not going to Cleveland. There's no way. I'm not going to Cleveland. There's no way I'm working for Jimmy Haslam.
In spite of the fact it would give him the chance to get back at the Ravens ownership twice a year.
I tell you where he might actually end up. No one's talked about it yet. He might end up in Las Vegas. I can certainly see Tom Brady giving a call and saying, "Hey, John, this is Tom. Come out to Vegas."
And we would have two Harbaugh
boats.
Huh? Sorry.
You can see that happening?
Oh, I can absolutely see that happening. John versus Jim in the AFC West.
Twice
it would be
a year.
Beautiful.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Even though the Raiders roster is worse than a high school team.
Well, it is, but they're about to have Fernando Mendoza as their rookie quarterback.
No, they're not. They absolutely are not. I wouldn't take him first, but I go off.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, if the Titans don't get Harbaugh, Kevin Stefanski's available.
Yes, Stefanski's your guy.
And Stefanski's getting an interview. We are interviewing him. Mike McCarthy's a guy that could be good. It's going to be interesting to see who we actually end up hiring.
Let me tell you who you shouldn't hire. Either of the guys from Kansas City who are lined up to interview. Steve Spagnuolo is a fantastic Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator, but as a head coach, I have 3 words for you: St. Louis Rams.
Exactly.
Listen, I'm in a good mood. Please don't do that. Please don't.
Now, the other guy from Kansas City that they're interviewing is their offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy. And setting aside his failure with the Chicago Bears, do you really want to hire the offensive guy who has presided over the demise of the Kansas City offense over the past 3 years?
I really don't. Sad to say, though, that is not my call. It is worth mentioning, though, that Mike Bergonzi, our GM, who we hired away from the Chiefs, has said that he is not – that getting one of those guys is not an automatic. So that's good news. I'm going to look ahead real quick to the draft. We've got the 4th pick. One reason I'm not going to do a lot on mock drafts right now is because who we end up drafting, I think, could have a lot to do with who we end up signing in free agency next month, or actually month after next. I'm not that far ahead. Because there has been some talk that the Titans could maybe take a swing at getting George Pickens, which would be a great pickup for our offense, and it would take away the need to draft a wide receiver in the first round, which would free us to draft an edge rusher, which we could really use.
You don't want to draft a wide receiver in the first round anyway. It's a thin draft this year for receivers.
It's going to be interesting. I would say another possibility, there's still a chance we could trade down. I don't know. We will see. As Joaquin Andahar, the great Cardinals legend, once said, there's one word in America that says it all, and that word is you never know. Still one of my all-time favorite quotes, by the way.
Yeah.
We are going to jump from talking about really bad football teams, namely the Tennessee Titans, to talking about some really good football teams as we are starting the NFL playoffs. And this playoff field this year is unreal deep. I mean, I'm looking at the AFC, and I would say outside of maybe Pittsburgh, the other 6 teams in the field all have a chance to win the AFC and get to the Super Bowl. It's a similar story over in the NFC, where I would say outside of the Panthers and maybe the Packers, the rest of that field all have a fighting chance to get to the Super Bowl. This is going to be this could potentially be an amazingly good postseason, maybe one of the best ever. And we're going to lead off. We have 2 games coming up on Saturday night. The Carolina Panthers and the Los Angeles Rams get things going in Carolina at 3:30 on Saturday, followed by the Bears hosting the Packers at 7 o'clock on Saturday night. We're going to lead off with those games. I think the Rams go into Carolina and win, even though Carolina won that first matchup, so that's not a lock. And on the other side of it, I think the Bears beat the Packers at home. But again, 2 pretty good matched teams. You never know.
The Rams are going to win that game. I mean, the Rams are going to be playing in playoff mode. They were not in playoff mode a few weeks ago at Carolina. That Rams defense is going to be all over Bryce Young, and I think the Packers are going to rise up and beat the Bears. I think the Packers have been playing possum for the past few weeks, and they had an opportunity to rest all of their starters in Week 18 at Minnesota, and I just get this feeling that because I'm a Minnesota fan and I consume so much media out of Minneapolis, they've been drawing a lot of parallels between this year's Bears team and Kevin O'Connell's first Vikings team in 2022. Really effective offense, not a very good defense, but one that was opportunistic with turnovers. And, just playoff football is completely different. And one of the things that you can always say with certainty about the Packers, they show up and play their best football in the playoffs. So assuming that Jordan Love is fully healthy, and I expect that he will be, I think the Packers are going to come out and just stick it to Chicago right from the outset.
That's a very good possibility.
I honestly, as much as it's going to pain me, because one of my buddies is a big Packers fan, one of my coworkers is a big Packers fan, and one of my best friends is a Bears fan. Green Bay on the road. Yeah, Green Bay on the road, and I forget, and Bork, I hope you forgive me for that, but the Bears are, and I look at their numbers. Yeah, the biggest striking point with them defensively, they lead the NFL in turnover margin and turnovers forced and interceptions, but they're still a bottom 8 defense in terms of points per game. Or they're 23rd in points allowed, 25th in yards allowed. Yeah. You can run the ball on the Bears, and you think handing the ball to Josh Jacobs 25 times a game in the cold, that writes itself. Jordan Love shouldn't have to do too much, and you want to minimize Caleb Williams' opportunities, and you want to close out his breathing space, and make him prove, hey, are you the guy? I want to see you do it. Oh, by the way, here's Micah Parsons.
Yeah, no, here's not Mike Parsons. He's out for the season with a torn ACL.
Oh, that's
remember?
right. That's right. But that's still a very solid Packers defense.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea about them getting Parsons was that they already had a really good defense that Parsons just made great because and the advantage that Parsons gave them was everybody had to focus on him and allowed the rest of their defense to just tee off and do their thing. But here's the thing. The Bears have a terrible pass rush, an absolutely terrible pass rush. And if you give a healthy Jordan Love time in the pocket, he's going to tear you to pieces.
Yeah, the Bears still struggle because to generate pressure. Everything's going to have to come down to their offense and being able to run the football, which is not going to be easy to do against this Packers defense. Although the Bears are number one in the league in rushing, it's a by committee rushing attack. I'm taking the Packers on the road, and I'm sorry because I really love Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, and I think it's great for football when the Bears are thriving and you have that atmosphere in Chicago in January.
Yeah.
Packers, Bears in January. But I just think Green Bay has a little too much.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if the Bears win a close one, even if they come back and win a close one, because if there's one thing that the Packers have shown us consistently this season is their inability to close out games. But I think the Rams are going to take the same attitude with the Panthers. I think they're going to run a lot of heavy offensive sets with 2 or 3 tight ends. I think they're going to hit them with Williams and Corum on the run to open up the pass. I think Devontae Adams, for the sake of the Rams, has healed up from that hamstring injury. It's going to be difficult for the Panthers secondary to keep up with Adams and space alien Puka Nacua, especially if Matt Stafford is on his game, which I fully expect him to be.
I have to say Devontae Adams, his status for the game is questionable, as is Blake Corum and Tyler Higbee and starting tackle Alaric Jackson. Those are big. And Kyron Williams' status is also questionable. However, we should not have lost to Carolina the first time. By the way, did anybody know we scored 518 points this year? Just the most unspoken of 500-point season in the history of football. And our point differential is plus 172. Quite frankly, we should be better. I think we're about a 15-win team, fully healthy.
Well, if you,
Carolina,
regardless
nice story.
Regardless of your health, if you go in to the wild card round and lose to a team that's below 500, you don't get to talk about the Rams until next December.
No, that's fair. Because it would be similar to when Seattle beat New Orleans and they had the Beastquake run, because that Seattle team was 7-9. They finished with the Jeff Fisher special.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
We should win though. I think we should be pretty heavily favored.
Let's fast forward to January 11th.
That's right.
Those are the early games, Mike.
The Buffalo Bills are headed to Jacksonville in what may be the best matchup of the entire weekend. I don't even want to try to pick this one. I think I might have picked it in our pick'em. I don't remember who I picked, but that's going to be an unbelievable matchup at noon on CBS. Then at 3:30 on Fox, the 49ers are going to Philadelphia in what is going to be another legitimately good matchup. And then the evening is capped at 7 o'clock with the Chargers heading to Foxborough to take on New England. I think New England wins this one, but you never know. I think the other game, the 49ers-Eagles, again, that's almost a pick'em. And then we will wrap up the weekend on, what they call Super Wild Card Weekend on Monday Night Football for the last time of the year when the Texans go to Pittsburgh. I'm going to take Houston in this one, but again, you never know.
Let's start with that early game on Sunday, January 11th, Bills at Jaguars. Jaguars should win this game. The Jaguars should win this game. Trevor Lawrence is on a roll. That team is clicking on all cylinders. They have all the momentum. The X factor really is Josh Allen, and this may be his last best opportunity to win a Super Bowl. I mean, because just looking at the AFC, it's like, who's the best quarterback in the AFC playoffs? It's without a question, it's Josh Allen. They have a fabulous running back in James Cook III. They don't have a run defense, and that concerns me. The Jaguars are a high-scoring team, and if they get into a shootout, I'm not sure that the Bills' defense has the means to stop them. My heart says Buffalo, but my mind says Duval. So
I'm in the same spot as you, and it breaks my heart. Also, in advance, rest in peace to Highmark Stadium because the Bills just played their last game there. I hate seeing stadiums, old stadiums, get torn down because that's memories cherished. But this is a slugfest. This is a heavyweight matchup because Buffalo is the number one rushing team in the NFL. Jacksonville is the number one rushing defense in the NFL. This literally will come down to quarterbacks. Yep. Trevor Lawrence has the momentum, yes. Josh Allen is proven, and as you said, there's no Mahomes, there's no Lamar. It might be it for Josh Allen.
Yep. Moving out to Philadelphia, the Niners at the Eagles. This is as much of a coin flip game as I've ever seen because you have no idea which of these two teams' dual identities will show up. We know that the Eagles are going to play tough defense. Can the 49ers match them on the defensive side? Because the Niners, their defense hasn't been great. It's been good enough, but they have key players missing, particularly Bosa and Fred Warner on that defensive side. And then, Brock Purdy did not show us a whole lot in Week 18 going up against the Seahawks. But at the same time, we have how many games this season in which Jalen Hurts doesn't complete a pass in the second half? This has all the makings of a 17-14 game, and whichever team has possession at the end of the game is probably the one who kicks the winning field goal. I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you because I could give you the same amount of reasons why the Niners will beat the Eagles as I could why the Eagles will beat the Niners. So you know what? I'm just going to go home field and say Philadelphia wins that game.
These teams are polar opposites in a lot of ways where Philadelphia can't move the football, but they're a tough defense with the 49ers. And again, in spite of all the injuries, especially on the defensive side, the San Francisco is ranked 20th in total yards allowed this year. And keep in mind, as you mentioned, no Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner. And they're still hanging in. They're playing just good enough. The irony is they got a healthy CMC this year, and that really helped drive that offense.
Well, he's not that healthy at this point in the season, unfortunately, because they give him, 500 touches?
At this point, they have no choice.
Right.
But Kyle Shanahan, and this is the maddening thing about him, in terms of X's and O's, that's not a Sean McVay. Kyle Shanahan's the best coach in the NFL from a schematic standpoint, and yet this man has no rings. And look what he's done this year with the rash of injuries and 8 games of Mac Jones. 5-3 with Mac Jones.
I know he's the Bud Grant of the 21st century. I'm telling you, I'm sticking with that. He's the Bud Grant of the 21st century.
In 2025, he got a 5-3 record out of Mac Daddy Jones. But again, this game is so close to call, so I got it. I'll just give the home field advantage to Philly, and a game that will not be aesthetically pleasing to watch.
I think what it really might come down to is just a battle of the running backs. Who's going to get more yards, Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey? I think that's probably what it comes down to.
Honestly, that's fair, but given how much the Philadelphia running game, and I think it has a lot to do with schematics and no Jason Kelce to anchor their offensive line.
Yeah,
they barely averaged 3 yards a carry this year, where last year they were gashing everybody, and Saquon had an argument for MVP. It's not the same, so that's very, very fair. Like, who's going to be the first to blink and make a big play?
All right, I'm going to play fantasy football with the Chargers at the Patriots because here's my fantasy. The Chargers, coached by Jim Harbaugh, who Minnesota said, thanks but no thanks, we think we can do better. and quarterbacked by Justin Herbert. A lot of talent, not a whole lot of playoff success so far in his career. They're going to Foxborough to play probably the MVP of the league in Drake May. And this is my fantasy, that the Patriots win this game like 38-10. And Herbert throws 3 or 4 interceptions and just looks terrible. And the next day, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah calls the GM out in L.A. and say, hey, we know that Coach Harbaugh has a lot of really good feelings about J.J. McCarthy, and Herbert hasn't really shown it. Would you like to do a quarterback swap, fellas? How about it? How about a QB swap?
Lord.
I told you it was a fantasy.
Not going to happen.
No, fantasies never do. But hey, if it does happen, I'm a prophet, and this podcast goes national. So how about that?
There you go.
We'll save that as a clip for the end of the year.
Yes. Okay. What's next? Steelers, Texans. I want
last but least, maybe.
No, I want the Texans defense to hit Aaron Rodgers so hard for 60 minutes that they have to they have to pour him into a bag to drag him off the field and off into retirement. I don't want him injured. I don't want him to go to the hospital or anything like that. But I want him to take enough punishment at the hands of Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter that he never even thinks about playing the game again. Texans.
I am not convinced that is a good football team. I've been yelling that for months. The Steelers are frauds. They BS their way and backdoored their way in, all because a rookie kicker, and God bless them, and also shut up to the jerks that have been harassing that man and his wife on an aside. But the Steelers aren't a good football team. What are we doing here? The Houston Texans defense will not even have to do, their offense won't even have to do a whole lot. Just protect the ball, make timely plays, C.J. Stroud and all his receivers, because that defense is going to be open season on a geriatric in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I don't feel bad. Shout out to the Texans, D'Amico Ryans, Danielle Hunter, Derek Stingley Jr., who is, by God, all world. The Texans are going to maul Aaron Rodgers and send him to retirement, where he can go wither away and wait for his gold jacket.
And
the Steelers aren't good.
Yeah, which is why you and I are both probably going to be sitting here next week eating a giant plate full of crow pie after the Steelers win 19-16 or some sort of ugly rock fight game like that, because that's what they do.
I can't stand. I genuinely cannot stand how they always listen. Their division stinks. They are the product of a bad division, very bad.
You know what they are. This is what they are, and I don't mean this in any offensive way, but I was alive and I watched this. The Steelers are Muhammad Ali at the end of his illustrious career, when he was too old to fight anymore, but he was smart enough to know, look, if I can just drag this out long enough and tie up my opponent enough, not let my opponent do what they want to do and just sort of frustrate them, get in a few punches, and then win the fight on points at the end. I watched the man do it, and all credit to him, because he was the greatest of all time. But that's how the Steelers are winning these games ugly. It's like, they're just tying up their opponents. They don't get so far behind that they have to ask Rodgers to do a whole lot to save the game. I mean, it's how they got here in the first place. It's how they beat the Ravens. They just stuck around and managed to cobble together a lead at the end that they hung on to. And absolutely, anyone who's harassing the Ravens kicker, delete all of your social media accounts, and you're not allowed to watch sports for the rest of this decade. People, get a grip.
Absolutely, but back to before Mike, yes, swing it back to you. This is infuriating. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are a division champion. 25th in total offense, 26th in total defense. The
Yikes.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, but
the
all that-
Steel Curtain,
Yeah.
Blitzburg,
But all
are a
that tells
bottom
you-
6 defense.
Kyle, all that tells you is that the Ravens and the Bengals and the Browns were even worse. You could make a case that the AFC North, not the NFC South, was the worst division in football this year.
Yeah, I agree. And on that note, that's going to wrap it up for this week. We will be back next week. We've got a pretty cool special guest tentatively lined up. We will talk more about that when the time gets closer. But I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And this is Kyle Roberts.
And you have been listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.